Sunday morning, last Sunday of the month. And on the last Sunday of the month, we got honors here. We have got Heinlein Award winner David Gerald, who's got, the master of all books. And we'll keep bringing that up until you've picked up the award at Balticon this year.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we have Jim Wright,
not a Heinlein Award winner.
Not a Heinlein Award winner, but I can tell you what, I've read enough of your writing. You are going to have a collection of awards that will rival David Gerald.
Oh. I don't want the awards they give David.
Well, yeah, I know.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Mean people yell at him. I don't.
Like they don't yell at you. Come on.
All day. God, you should see my email this week. Oh, it's horrifying.
So what are they doing to you?
Oh, well, we talked a little bit on my feed here a couple weeks ago about some of my personal experiences with some Soviet vessels, Russian ships that are now decorating the bottom of the Black Sea. And for some reason, that got me on a bunch of very vocal mailing lists. And so my inboxes are, well, I don't know if they're any worse than they usually are, but I don't know. It's a refreshing change. So it's stunning to me how many so-called Americans are standing for Vladimir Putin and the Soviet Navy. But anyway, there we are.
Yeah, that is I have to admit, that is a shocker.
It's the right wing has, which used to be so rabidly anti-communist in the 50s and 60s, has now gone bananas for authoritarianism. And over the past few years, they've been conditioned to respect dictators. And, Tucker Carlson, he's ready to go over and kiss Putin's ass. That's amazing. If we were still in an honest Cold War, he'd have been arrested by now, certainly fired.
It's stunning to me that this guy, it's a show of, it's a little bit something I talked about in the Stone Kettle group yesterday of, we've become kind of a nation of, I don't know how the hell else to phrase it. It's probably going to be offensive to some people, but we've become a nation of cutters, man, where we're hacking at our own flesh and we can't enjoy things without bleeding all over everything. And people, some of these folks, they act as if there's no consequence to this kind of hate and reactionary just bile all the time to everything. Doesn't matter what the hell it is. People line up or have been conditioned over the last couple of years by social media, by news media, by talking heads, by people like Rush Limbaugh. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm sitting here watching people on my feed talking about some current celebrity who I'm just not going to name, who's getting divorced from another celebrity. And it's been on the news for 3 days. And I see people, well, I'm team this guy and I'm team that girl. And I'm like, these are horrible people getting divorced. You're not on their team, man. These just for God's sake.
But Jim, and it makes no difference. It's like shouting down a well. Most of the stuff that people post on Facebook or anywhere else or Twitter, nobody cares. It's your venting. You might as well talk to a wall. It's unless it makes a difference. It's not communication. But it's there's a mindset among the radical right. I'll shoot myself in the foot to own the libs. They would
That's
rather
the state of Florida right now.
Hurt themselves if they think that will own the libs.
Well, that's
like, okay, you owned me. Fine, stop. I admit it. You owned me. All right. Stop. Please stop. Stop hurting yourselves.
Right, and that's the thing, though. I mean, that's the state of Florida right now. The government of the state of Florida and the people that are in charge of the legislature and the governor, who are busy literally cutting off their own face. They're not just cutting off their nose. I mean, they have lopped off their whole face, like that that scene at the end of hell, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Alita Battle Angel, where the one cyborg guy gets his face sliced off and it falls off on the ground. That's what these people remind me of every day here in Tallahassee. They will literally cut off their own face if it hurts somebody else. And the people in the state now, like I said, if you were following my Twitter feed this morning, which God help you, I don't know why you would, but if you're following my Twitter feed this morning, I don't sleep much, and this week especially so. I'm in a hell of a lot of pain, which you may see from my even worse screwed up than usual face. And so 5:30 this morning, I'm sitting out here on my stool with my big camera set up in the front yard, scaring the shit out of my neighbors, taking pictures of birds, and I could. It started at 6:30. As soon as there's sunlight, the gunfire starts. And at 8 o'clock, it starts in earnest because there's allegedly a noise ordinance. I don't think it's ever enforced. And the people that enforce are probably the ones with the guns shooting anyway. But these people are out blazing away because they just can't wait for the war to start, man. They just can't. They look at Beirut. They look at Bosnia. They look at what's happening in Ukraine, and they just can't wait for that to happen here. They can't wait to start shooting their neighbors. And they have it in mind.
I will tell you this, and you know this better than me. If you've ever been in a war zone, you don't want to go back. You don't want. It's not something you want to do.
These people are nuts. Yeah, it's like I said. It's stunning to me that, and I said this online this morning. And again, this will get me hate mail, but these people, they don't have any teeth, and they don't have teeth because they've got a genetic problem. They don't have any teeth because they don't have any dental hygiene. And they don't have, and their kids don't have any teeth. It's horrifying. I have been in third world countries with better dental hygiene than where I live. And they all say the same thing. Well, you can't afford it. Well, you can afford $1,000 worth of cigarettes and ammo every week. To talk about, I mean, this is a state where I literally have the people in charge of the state are talking about pedophiles and groomers and how much they love the children. I'm like, well, for a bunch of people that claim that you're so worried about children, you're spending all your money on cigarettes and booze and ammo and nothing on your kids, man. I mean, I don't hear anybody in Tallahassee talking about, hey, you know what we need to do? Get some dental care for our kids. That's what we need to do. Universal health care, those kind of things. We need to take care of these children that we allegedly care about. All they're talking about now is sticking it to Disney and shooting holes in things. And the next war. I'm like, you know what happens to kids in war? I got news for you, man. Because, I don't know. It's the mentality of we can't wait to start killing our neighbors. And we don't care how much it hurts ourselves as long as we get to stick it to the people that we think we hate. We don't even know that we hate these people. And I mentioned
these are people, I drive cross country. I get to talk to people, and most of these people have never been more than 20 miles from home. Right. And their information about the world comes from Fox Noise. And, and they've been told, hate the big city people, hate the minorities, hate this, hate that, they're going to come into your bathroom and assault you. It's like, give me a break. If I go into the bathroom, all I want to do is pee. I don't want to. But they have been taught to be afraid, and then they've been taught to hate, and then they vote their hate as a way of owning the libs. Okay, great. You owned us. You owned us. Meanwhile, as Jim just said, your kids are going without education, without dental care, without health care, and you're living in poverty. And you're living in poverty to own the libs. There's something wrong with this picture.
Right.
Can I ask you? Can I get you guys to tweak something there? I have one of the things you guys read about slavery, not in Florida, of course, but
maybe a little bit. Yeah, sure.
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the hallmarks I always thought of slavery was the two things. One that says you weren't allowed to teach a slave to read. You weren't allowed to educate. And if a slave was ever freed, they couldn't stay in the state for the most part. They had to leave the state. And so I have so much trouble with this concept as I see this attack on education, the process of education, getting the books out of the library, math books. I mean, for God's sake, it's a freaking math book.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because we're right here in the state of Florida, and again, to build on what you're talking about, we looked at. There's a number of folks, myself included, who looked at the 40-something books, 50 depends on which list you look at, of books that were math books that were they weren't banned, but they were showed. Basically, the state has said we're not going to allow these in the school. You know, and again, there's layers of disingenuous nonsense going on here because there is the books that are accepted all are produced by one company, which is a big investor in the current people that run the state's campaign. And so everybody's in bed with everybody. But if you go through and you look at these books and you look at why they were rejected, more or less, two of the math books are rejected, and these are in lower grade math. And if you've seen those kind of math, if you can remember back that far, and I can't, I had to go look it up because I can't remember. But if you look back in grade school math books, a lot of times they have like little mini bios. You know, they have a picture of Euclid or whoever, a math guy in the book, and then underneath there'd be a little bio to tell you about who this person was and where they came from. Two of those books that were rejected had bios of Black mathematicians. Now, they weren't, there wasn't anything about any of this critical race theory nonsense that Republicans are all up in arms about. It was just that out of the dozen or so bios of mathematicians in this book, two of those mathematicians happened to be Black. They were people of color. And so there was literally nothing else in that book, but those books were flagged as being as pushing critical race theory. That's very Southern, man. That's very Florida. That's very the very fact that Black people or people of color or women or gay people or people that are not straight white male Christians accomplished anything is in some way indoctrinating children. And I guess, as a matter of fact, kind of is. And not indoctrination is the wrong word, but this idea that in America that there are people other than straight white Christian men who accomplished anything, well, I guess that's a pretty insidious, you get that idea in children's head. Well, then they might start thinking that everybody's human and that we all are capable of accomplishing things and that we all should be treated equally and with respect. I mean, Jesus, we sure as hell wouldn't want that in America, But it's bizarre. It's bizarre. There's people. I live in the perennial small white Christian Southern town, and people here, they're out on the street corners. They're out on the corners with signs because they are convinced that Black people are coming for them. The gay people are coming for them. I don't know what they think is going to happen when those people get here, but they're out here this morning firing their guns to make goddamn sure they're ready for the invasion when it shows up. And now somebody has put that idea in their head. That guy's Fox News. That guy's Rush Limbaugh. That guy's Tucker Carlson. That guy's the local preacher. Because fear is what motivates these people.
And I heard the phrase outrage addiction noted in the comments a lot.
Yeah, I think that's, let me hark back to all of those years of, being in the training rooms, personal effectiveness courses, which I not only managed, but actually led and co-led. You get very clear after a while that there are certain patterns that people fall into almost inevitably. And one dichotomy is victim responsible. And it's very easy to fall into the look what they're doing to me mindset, because you give away your personal power. You're not responsible for any of the crap that happens to you around your life. You can sit and complain about it, and it's your comfort zone. It's your zone of which is not comfortable. It's your zone of resignation. It's what you've settled for. to actually be responsible and make a difference in your life, you have to be conscious. You have to be conscientious. You have to get off your ass and work. And if you've been conditioned to be the victim in your life, the idea that you can change things is so alien, so strange, that it's a lot easier to just be the victim. And so your outrage addiction is an expression of the victim mentality. You can be angry, you can be afraid, but you don't have to do anything about it. Oh, wait a minute. Every couple of years, I'll go and vote and own the libs, and that's how I'll get even with them, right? Well, the agenda is that people with a lot of money who want to hold that power, they want to keep those people in the victim mentality because it's a lot easier to control victims than it is to control an outraged, responsible population. And the proof of this is in 1929, when the stock market crashed, we went into the Great Depression worldwide. People finally got pissed off enough to vote Democratic everywhere. And for 20 years, we had a shift in power that limited what the people with money could do in this country. And it wasn't until Nixon that tide changed. And Nixon's embarrassment, his near impeachment, his resignation, created a vacuum in the Republican Party that the radical right moved into. If you follow, if you grew up, you saw it happening. Nixon's disgrace created a vacuum that allowed the radical right to seize power in the party. And it took them years and years, but they did it by purging the moderates and the liberals out of the Republican Party. And now you have a Republican Party that is about as close to a fascist organization as this nation has ever seen. They are using the playbook of Joseph Goebbels. They're using the playbook of Vladimir Putin. They're using the playbook of tyranny to discredit everyone who stands in their way. And I'm sorry, that's my outrage for this morning.
You didn't hear me disagreeing with you. I agree, and it's again, this is the stuff that happens. People don't see it. In fact, I was Jeff Vandermeer, the writer Jeff Vandermeer, and myself were chatting a little bit on Twitter this morning about the edge of this subject and the fact that you see a number of factors at play here. In other words, we the rise of the 24-hour-a-day news cycle created a huge vacuum that had to be filled, and the easiest way to fill that is with outrage. And I'm watching the comments on the side here, folks, and I'll answer some of those in just a second, or at least we'll try to get in that direction. But there's this huge vacuum, and the easiest way to fill that vacuum is the same way it's always been. I mean, from Hitler to whoever, to any demagogue leader throughout history, the easiest way to fill that vacuum is with outrage, to paint a group of people, whoever they are, as the alien, as the enemy, as the fifth column, and then to paint the people that you want to support you as the only true patriots and the only true, human beings, that kind of thing. And you can vary that however the hell you want. And exactly what David said. You saw it with Nixon. After Nixon, Lee Atwater was a big architect of the Southern strategy, and it's the same process. It's these people are aliens. The phrase that they used was welfare queens in their Cadillacs. And it's a famous phrase that was coined by Atwater, used by Reagan, building directly on the Southern strategy that Nixon used. And it's the same thing. And if you look at like Glenn Beck, or you look especially at Rush Limbaugh, his career is built, or was built, entirely on that, on creating enemies, on creating outrage, on being mad about things. And you see this with all the major talking heads right now, from Alex Jones to Glenn Beck to Laura Ingraham, to any of these people who I mean, Tucker Carlson's a perfect example, because the things that guy is outraged about are ridiculous. I mean, they're absolutely nuts. But then they're legitimately outraged. We're mad. And I see this on my feed all the time. And I've thought about this a lot. A lot of these folks, especially like where I live here, a lot of these people feel very powerless. I mean, these are hardcore right-wing conservatives. This is it's almost party independent. It's just that the Republican Party embraces that at the moment. But these people, they're poor, they're not educated, and I'm using generalities here. Obviously, there are many exceptions to this, but as a general rule, a lot of this area is very impoverished. These people are not well educated. They have been fed this bit for 100 years that they're victims of northern aggression, the war of north, that kind of nonsense. That all these things that their lives are crappy because somebody else is sticking it to them. If it wasn't for everybody else trying to, gay people having rights, black people having rights, immigrants having rights, all these, everybody else is coming here and taking things away from them. That's the line that they've been fed. And they feel powerless. Their jobs, it never occurs to them that the reason that they're in some crappy, low-paying, dead-end job is because they don't have any education. And they don't have any education because they dropped out of school. And I know people right here that never made it past 6th or 7th grade. And then they're mad. They're like, well, why am I not picked for management? You can't even spell, man. You can't even fill out the paperwork for the application. But again, there's this real victim mentality, and I see this. And then comes the advent of social media, and like the hate mail and stuff that I get are people that are just furious, and I mean just red-eyed furious. They're so angry, and social media gives them the power to anonymously. I mean, they would never be able to say this kind of stuff to my face or to your face. I mean, someone might, but for the most part, there's this veneer of civilization. But underneath, man, social media gives these people the anonymity to indulge in that rage and you should see the hate mail that I get, the death threats that I get every day. I mean, you shouldn't see it because you get the same kind of thing. But these people, they're comfortable in that. They can say the things that they wanted to say when they were in the store and they saw that gay couple or that mixed race couple, or they saw that. They didn't dare say it in the Walmart, but by God, they can get online and they can send me email and they can, they can say that kind of thing and then get away with it. There's a guy that sends me hate mail all the time, and I know who he is. He's not nearly as clever as you think. He works for a certain government agency, and I would remind him if he's watching that your IP blocker was built by the lowest bidder, Sparky. But he sends me hate mail. This guy's fairly well educated. He's a professor. He's a lawyer. And he sends me the most vile hate mail you can imagine. And every day, because I'm his pet project. He just got to stick it to me. He wants me to feel bad about myself. My God, that's every day he sends me, or every other day he sends me this horrible hate mail. And you have to almost feel sorry for this guy. I don't really feel sorry for him, like a building to fall on him, but you almost have to feel sorry for this guy because he's so consumed, so obsessed with making me feel bad.
I was thinking about this morning. There's not very much. I get there in the science fiction community. There is a cluster of toxicity, a cluster of people who are very much invested in hating other people, and they tend to be around a certain publisher, and they tend to be around a certain political movement, and they tend to be around a certain political belief. And a couple of them have targeted me occasionally. And I've thought about it, and I thought, after I get past my annoyance, which is about yay much, because I have so many more important things to do, it's like, dude, I wish you healing. I wish you to get better. I wish you to have some fun in your life. And it looks like the only joy they can find is sticking it to other people. And it's like, why? What is wrong? Is there a name for what's wrong with you? Yeah, there's a name for what's wrong with you. You're a toxic asshole. But it's like over here, I don't have to accept delivery. Sean and I have a thing we say, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Right. And so they're thinking, in their mind, they're thinking that the more they hate me, or, and this is true for whoever it is, whether it's this particular group of people or whether it's the right wing or whatever, the more they hate me, the more I'm going to be annoyed or hurt. Nah, it's not changing my life, because most of the time I'm not even aware of what they're thinking or saying. It's like, most of the time I'm just concentrating on writing the next story or playing with the dog or having fun with my grandson, or just in the evening, Sean and I hang out and talk about nothing in particular. We just hang out together. It's like,
Right.
do you guys really think you're going to spoil my life by saying something on Facebook or Twitter somewhere? I don't care. And I think that's the attitude we have to take. The problem is that when those voices get loud enough, we have to take a stand against them because silence equals death. We learned that during the AIDS epidemic. Silence equals death. We have to stand up. And it's really annoying because bottom line, these are people, they're attention whores. They want the attention of people who they know are successful and responsible and powerful. Because that validates, look how important I am, that so-and-so who's so big and important has to spend time on me. It's like, dude, go get a life, write a story, play with the dog, have grandkids, do something, make a difference in the world. Stop pissing in other people's parade. I was like,
I wrote a little bit about this. I think I wrote
Limbaugh created. This is what Nixon and Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich and the whole pack of them created. And they are lucky I don't have a time machine, or those babies would have been kidnapped and delivered to liberal.
Right. Again, but there have always been people that are like this, that are, that can only, again, we become a nation of cutters, where you can only get that validation by hurting yourself as long as you hurt somebody else. And there have always been these people in our society, but social media has given them a voice. And they're also this kind of mentality, this I can only be happy by making other people hate themselves. That mentality is contagious. And you definitely see that in America today. And social media is given us, but I think what a lot of people don't understand, and people, I don't think that Rush Limbaugh set out to create this world. He set out to make money. He, in the days before social media, market share was your clicks and likes. And so the more outrageous things he said, the more likes he got, and guys like Glenn Beck, I mean, it's obvious that guy never believed any of the crap that he was saying at first. I think he does now. The same thing with Alex Jones. But it's a way to make money. I don't necessarily believe it, but if I get on here and I say these crazy things, people follow me and then I get rich, right?
I've noticed I'm not getting rich. I'm not getting rich by saying nice and enlightened things. I'm not getting rich that way. But I'd rather be poor. Well, not poor, but I'd rather be, not poor, but I'd rather be myself and rational,
true to yourself, and somebody that you
can a little bit, maybe a little bit enlightened.
Rather be somebody that I'd rather be able to respect myself.
Let me say
get
this:
up in the morning, and look in the mirror. Right, exactly.
Aiden and my little grandson likes to sit on my lap and we watch videos, and we watch the dance mashups a lot. But one of his favorites is Bobby McFerrin and Bill Irwin and Robin Williams doing the video of "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And that's become kind of our mantra around here. Don't worry, be happy. And we'll sing it. I'll sing. He'll just kind of sit there and, and wiggle his legs a little. And but that's going to be our mantra is don't worry, be happy. When you worry, it's borrowing trouble you don't need. It'll arrive on its own when it arrives. You deal with it when right. But and I think there are people who are invested in worrying and fear and anger to the extent that they have eliminated all of the positive emotions from their life, which are way up there beyond reach. Mild interest, strong interest, enthusiasm, joy, ecstasy, bliss. They're not capable of it anymore because they have retrained their brain into those toxic patterns. And you can retrain your brain. You got to work on it. That's why I've been doing the gratitude and the happiness challenge every day, is to make sure that I am keeping those brain circuits active and channeling. Now, of course, it's real easy for me to be happy. The dog is healthy. I go out, I see my grandkids smiling and playing, and I get this feeling of joy inside me. So I've got that circuitry running every day. But there are people who They walk out of their little Silverstream trailer. They look at the car jacked up on the blocks, in front of their whatever their situation is, and they go into that toxic because that's the most familiar and comfortable way of being that they've developed for themselves. And breaking that pattern requires a level of practice, and I'll even say therapy. It requires a level of breakthrough that is simply beyond people who've spent 20 years learning how to be victims.
Right. Well, and again, and I agree with everything you said, and it's become a real mentality in this country. We don't have any optimism. When I was growing up, and again, I hate that when I was growing up, things were so much better. I don't think so. I grew up in the '60s, so things were not necessarily better. They were worse in a different way than they are now, or maybe not. But they're nationally, country-wise, and don't get me wrong, because we all know what kind of leaders we had back then, but at least there was some optimism at the national level. We were going to the moon. We were doing things. Now, it didn't end. That decade didn't end well, I won't say. And the
1969 was the worst year of my life.
Right. There's no sense of national optimism nowadays. It just seems like everybody in this country is convinced that the end is coming and we're going to ride it. The best that we can hope for is to ride the bomb down like Slim Pickens at the end of Dr. Strangelove, man, a hooping and a hollering to the explosion. And again, you look at, if you ever go back and you look at history and you look at the collapse of the great empires and the collapse of civilizations, or just run-of-the-mill countries that were going along fine, and then suddenly, whammo, the society collapsed, and then it was war and chaos and genocide and blood and horror. And you say, how in the hell did that happen? How did people not see that coming? How did they not say, whoa, hang on, stop? Well, you're looking at it right now. You're looking at it happening.
This is what I would.
Terrible things.
Let me say this. I say this to my friends who talk about voting Republican. I say, tell me what the Republican vision is for building the future of America. And there is no vision. It's just, we want power. I said, yeah, okay, you want power, but what are you going to do with that power? Right. What are you going to do with that authority when you have it?
We're going to get rid of all the people we don't like.
It's like, how about let's repair our infrastructure? How about we do something about healthcare? It's like, yeah, remember Donald Trump promised the best healthcare plan ever. He'll have it in 2 weeks. Yeah, that was 5 years ago. Where's our best health plan? It's like, tell me what you're going to do. And if I like it, I'll sign on. But don't tell me that you have this great plan. Nixon had a secret plan for getting out of Vietnam. You know what it was? Bomb Cambodia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing is that, again, and I guess coming full circle around here, again, a lot of people that have signed on to this mentality, again, I know guys, I know people that are normal, ordinary Joes during the day. They put on a suit and a tie and they go to the office, and everybody thinks they're nice people and they're polite and they're kind and they're the guy you can depend on. And then they go home at night and they take off that tie and they sit down behind their computer, and they are the most vile, horrible, hateful sons of bitches, right? Because it's anonymous. And it's that shit that's seething underneath. And the problem is that people say, oh, well, I'm not, and they get caught. You see this happen. You see the celebrities that get caught doing it. You can see people online, or politicians, or especially like business CEOs, and then they get caught. And it turns out they were this racist dick bag, this hateful son of a bitch that was on social media anonymously. And they say, oh, well, I'm not really like that. See, I just got caught up in the moment. The problem is you are like that. And the worst part about it is that what these people don't see, and I think what the vast majority of America doesn't see at the moment, is that these things are not just blowing off steam. These things are not things that everybody does. They have real world consequences. And those consequences are playing out right here in Florida, where those hateful, horrible impulses have elected a government of hate and intolerance and people that are actively working to make the world a worse place.
Disney could change that. Disney could take, I don't know, let's say $25-30 million and invest it in supporting Democratic candidates throughout the state legislature and change the state. Disney could turn Florida blue in a matter of years. And
they're the ones who turned it red.
Yeah.
Or at least a big part of it.
Yeah. Disney could turn Florida blue simply by withdrawing all of its donations and support for Republican candidates. And if the Republicans piss off Disney enough, they'll strongly consider that option. I suppose It's probably already been discussed.
Oh, I imagine. But the problem is that, again, as much as I'm watching this happen here in Florida, I mean, I live right here. I can't go to the hardware store without hearing these people talking about it, right? And the thing about it is I mean, it's on the billboard. I mean, I could drive through this town and there's a Baptist church every other lot. And they got a sign out front, and that's, I mean, what's happening in the world because it's on that sign, right? And that sign never says feed the hungry, clothe the poor, heal the sick, do unto others. It never says that. No. It's all about groomers and pedophilia right now. But the thing about it is that I watched this, and I watched DeSantis sticking it to Disney right now, and you talk about mixed feelings because Disney is a giant factory for taking little princess dreams and turning them into gold ingots, because that's what Disney does. All right. And yeah, it's all goofy and cartoons and Pluto and Mickey Mouse and the big castle and little princesses. And they're the most ruthless mercenary sons of bitches that ever existed. And you only have to watch them go after copyright law to know. On one hand, I look at Disney at the moment and I feel some sympathy. On the other hand, they're the people who screwed Alan Dean Foster out of his royalties. So, but the problem, the real irony here is that Disney is the one that donated to these people. Disney's the one that created the situation.
On that one, the Alan Dean Foster thing, they were coming up against existing contracts and the power of the unions. And there is one thing Disney does respect, it's the power of the unions. And so once that particular battle was, those battle lines were drawn, Disney's lawyers knee-jerk said, no, we don't have to do anything. But once the battle lines were drawn and they saw they were going to be up against the unions, they said, you know what? It's not going to cost us anything. This is a rounding error. This guy wants, $3,000, $5,000. Give him his royalties. It's like we'll make that up, in 20
make that
seconds.
Up cotton candy sales, for Christ's sake. It's again, on one hand, like I said, it's hard to know who to root for here. But on the other hand, ultimately, no matter who wins, it's the residents of Florida that are going to lose. And this is a metaphor for the rest of the country. No matter who wins, it's always us that wind up paying the goddamn tab.
There is this, and I don't know if you ever follow Bo of the Fifth Column. He does. I don't.
Oh yeah. He and I know each other. Yeah.
But he made a very interesting point the other day, which is essentially what DeSantis has done is warn every corporation that is thinking about moving to Florida. We don't keep our word here in Florida. If we do this to Disney, we'll do it to everybody. And so there's a lot of corporations that may have been considering, gee, maybe we could move to Florida because of this or that or the other. And they're now thinking, if we can't trust the laws of Florida, maybe we should look at Georgia or Alabama or Virginia, or maybe we should just stay in California.
Probably avoid Alabama and Georgia, but again, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But again, these are metaphors for larger things. Roll back about 3-4 years, and we had a large international agreement about how we were going to keep Iran from developing their nuclear capability, while at the same time normalizing them and bringing them into the international community, which is how you de-radicalize a nation. Isolating them does not work. See North Korea, Cuba, et al. For the last 70 years. We had a process for that we'd all agreed on. Everybody shook hands. There were formal things. And then this asshole shows up in our country. We elect this dickhead. And the first thing that he does is say, we're not going to honor anything. You can't trust a single thing that America says on the international stage. Kiss my ass. And we're out of here. And again, and I said this at the time, I don't know why, with our current form of government, anybody in any other country would ever enter into agreement with the United States of America. Because in 2 or 3 years, when we elect the next jackass, well, maybe that agreement stands, maybe it doesn't.
Well, it used to be.
How can you trust that?
I'm talking about 70 years ago. Eisenhower came into office, and he said,
"Can't be that long ago, David. God damn it!"
And he said, these laws were passed. Didn't matter who passed them. We have to honor them. Nixon was the same way. If it hadn't been for Nixon's venal side, we'd have said he's a great president.
Oh, sure.
Because he did this, 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 and this. Except he was corrupt. But we get to farther down the line, Reagan and Bush and so on. And they have inherited a mindset of, we don't like this program. We didn't vote for it. We're going to revoke it. And that's where this mentality came from. We're going to roll back everything we don't like. Whereas previously, Republican presidents had said, once this is law, we have to find a way to make it work. It's the law. We can change it. We can tweak it. But the Republican Party is now in a mindset of, if we don't like it, we're not going to honor it. We're going to roll it back. And it started with Reagan when he had the Secretary of Interior and the Secretary of Watts and Butts. I forget what they were secretary. And
Watt. Yeah, James Watt.
Watts and Butts and Watts and Putts. And they were put in charge of their various departments. And their job was to destroy the departments they had been put in charge of, erase and not honor what was the law, but roll it back, grab huge handfuls of wiring and rip it out and destroy what was already working very well for the country, because Republicans didn't like regulation. We want to be able to pollute. We don't want to have to be responsible to the community or the environment. We don't want to have to pay fair wages. We just want money, 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 money. It's like, and they never realized that they make more money with the regulations and the unions. When the union has power, the companies make more money. They never realized that. The greed got in the way of rationality.
Well, you see that, and again, this is something that I said very often while the former guy was in office, was that he keeps talking about, that guy talked about the stock market every day. Stock market's up. Well, first of all, the stock market's up every day. And when the economy tanks, the stock market's up. The stock market there very rarely goes down. I mean, even if you look at the stock market during the Great Depression, the stock market went up. Everybody else suffered, but they still made money. And it's the same. But the great lesson of that, of course,
it doesn't matter which way the stock market is going.
Right.
They're making money. They make money when it goes up. They make money when it goes down by selling short.
And a guy that's a perfect example of that is the current guy who's trying to buy Twitter. That guy's driving the market up and down like a yo-yo. But anyway, my point is that all the last guy ever talked about was the goddamn stock market. But what he never talked to you about was the fact that stock markets like stability, and the international community, the international economy, the global economy only functions when the world is stable. And when you have a guy like the former guy who you didn't know from 1 minute to the next what that yo-yo was going to say, I mean, you had no idea what the hell was going to come out of his mouth from 1 minute to the next. When he was going to tweet something about bathroom fixtures or about nuking North Korea. I mean, it literally went from one of those things to the other thing in the same paragraph of the same speech. Those things are bad for the stock market. That kind of volatility is the worst possible. That kind of instability, Jim, is exactly how businesses.
People have said that what the former guy does is word salad, but that's an insult to salad.
I mean,
that man's mind. That man's mind is not fathomable. It's neurons firing at random. Neurons firing at random, and it all comes out his mouth. There's no filter. There's no self-awareness. And now I grant that he's cunning enough to know to know a little bit, but his mental decline is scary. the fact
Right.
that he was in a position of authority for so long. His mental decline was obvious during when he was running for office. I mean, the fact that he mocked the disabled reporter, you know, the pictures everywhere,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that should have been the end of it. That should have been the end of it. And to this day, I am aghast. I am absolutely
But
astonished
again,
that he went so far.
this takes us full circle back to where we started, which is that we have become that nation. You got a guy up here running for the office of president who openly mocked a disabled reporter. And I mean, like, this is like the kind of crap that you would see in seventh grade, maybe sixth grade. I mean, this is horrible, childish. This is not Republican. This is not Democrat. It's not left. It's not right. This is the kind of behavior that every single civilized human being on the planet would look at and go, "My God, man, you're done."
And
yet,
I don't
and yet in
understand why
America, half
I don't
of America
understand why
looked at that.
well, the
Half of
Democrats
America
should have
looked
made
at
an
him
issue of
do
it.
that.
Everybody should have made an issue of it.
You know, half of America looked at Trump do that horrible, vile thing, and they laughed. They laughed. Thought it was funny because it wasn't them he was attacking. It was, and literally that is the America that these people want to live in, where leaders act like that. You know, and I run into this all the time. You know, people would say to me, "Well, Democrats," I'm not a Democrat, man. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a conservative. I'm an American. My oath, most of my life was spent in the military. My oath was sworn to the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, I tend to vote Democrat nowadays because the other party's batshit insane. And if I have to vote, if the only way that I can vote in Florida in the primary is to go register for a political party, well, then I'll do that. But I don't identify by a particular political ideology. And if your political party is primarily supporting the things, I mean, if one side is crazy and the other side is still trying to hold civilization together, well, I mean, it's not really a difficult choice. But so many Americans have lined up, us and them. It's the Bush doctrine. You're either with us or you're against us, man. And that's how it is. And my football team is awesome. Everybody else is vile, horrible.
Yeah,
Terrible
politics is
people that
not a
suck.
football game. It's not a football game where you sit there, hooray for my side. No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's what do we do? What do we create working together? It's always been, you know, but then again, you know, I was trained 40 years of managing teams and working on teams. It becomes here's the goal. How do we do it working together? I don't think a lot of people have had experience working on a team or a committee where you have a specific goal that you have to accomplish and you have a deadline. I think that's probably a social skill that, you know, some of the companies that I've worked with, they have leadership programs, and the entire leadership program is how to work on a team for a common goal. And one of the goals one time was, how much money can we raise for the American Cancer Society? How much money can we do? How many boxes of food can we pack for the poor? How many? And we create these projects with the goal of, we'll make a difference by doing the project, but the real purpose was to learn how to work on a team with other people. And I don't think a lot of people have that skill. We don't teach it in school. We don't teach it in college. You're supposed to get it when you go, you know, that's why they have team building in the companies. I have a friend who he's an executive trainer, and they bring him in to do team building exercises, a lot of which he's very good at it because he understands the resistance. What do we need a team building exercise for? Can't we just go to work? No, you can't just go to work. You have to be part of a community that produces a specific result or a service for the customer, and you have to work with your coworkers. And, you know, and he can be pretty ferocious about it. But most people don't know how to work with other people. That's why we have dysfunctional families. My family over here, we have a lot of really good communication because we recognize family's a partnership. It's a team. We have a lot of, hello. Here is
speaking
my
of,
little
speaking of teammates.
Here's my little teammate. His job right now is to learn and grow and have fun.
That's right.
Aiden, see? So
Well, it's all over now, man. David used the nuclear option. He brought it a grandkid and a puppy.
Oh, look at. Like, go ahead, try it. Go ahead, make my day.
That's right. Grandkid and a puppy. Well, thanks. Way to nuke the whole damn thing, David.
You know why he's so good looking? He looks like his daddy. This is what Sean looked just like this as a little boy.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I love you, little guy.
Yeah. He's like, what am I doing? Why am I on TV?
Go see mommy. Go see mommy. Oh, go see.
That's it. That's it. I'm bringing in the beagle. That's it.
Hey, may I make an observation, David?
I think he belongs. David's gone off on grandfather break. It's all over, man.
Go ahead. Make my day. Tell me I'm a terrible person and a terrible writer. Go ahead. Tell me I'm a monster. Go ahead.
You're a monster,
Yeah.
David.
I tell you, David, you just showed us why we have to do the right thing.
That's right.
Why we have to stop the outrage.
That's
Why
right.
we have to stop the hate. Because little kids like that need to grow up into a world that we can have goodness in.
His timing was perfect because I'm talking
It
about
was.
my family, how well my family works. And it didn't happen by accident. We all had to work real hard about establishing personal boundaries, lines of communication, ways of living together, ways of working together. And this is something that it's like, if I have learned only one thing in my life, it is how to get along with other people, which is I was terrible at it as a kid. I was awkward. I was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't learn social skills. I was about 50, I think. So
When did you learn social skills? That's the last time I saw you. When that
just
happened?
a little bit. Just a little. I say please and thank you. But when I'm in the car, I will say terrible things about everybody else on the road because they're
That's
just
right.
assholes. But
Got it
other
coming.
than that,
That's
but
right.
at the end of the day, the spoon theory, at the end of the day, I'm out of spoons. And it's like, that is absolutely the wrong time to get in my face because I have been known to let loose a tirade. I'm not always this nice guy people think I am. I'm a really...
Well, you're a better person than I am. You're more social than I am. And my background, again, you were talking about getting along. Most of my adult life was spent in the military. And I was in... There were many mission planning meetings in the mornings in the war zone where, we get together and we have a list of things that had to happen that day. And nobody said, hey, Democrats on this side, Republicans on that side. And there were Democrats and Republicans. There are liberals in the military, shockingly. And what happened is the people in charge would say, this is what needs to be done. Now, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do this? What do we need to get this done? What assets? Where do we need to be? What do we got to do? How do we take care of our people? And in 15 minutes, it was all hammered out for the day. And we were all off on our way to do our various missions and our various jobs and our various things. And it's funny to me that, and there were, don't get me wrong, man, because there were people around that table that hated each other. And yet they could all work together just fine to accomplish the mission in a professional manner. And they did that for a long time, years at a time. And yet the same people, I write me hate mail today or people that I knew, that got out and suddenly they drew lines. I'm like, it's funny because when we were all in the mix together, we were all able to work together and we're not any different now than we were then. We don't believe different things now that we believed in that time. And yet somehow you got out and you stopped looking at things critically. And now it's more important to you to draw a division than it is to get the job done. How does that happen to you, man? Because I know what your training was and I know what your background was.
Charlie,
and I know who you were, and you were somebody that I could respect even if I didn't agree with. What the hell happened to you, man? But again, I sit and I look at this and I look at their Facebook page and it is Tucker Carlson. Every other share is Tucker Carlson. I mean, what the hell, man?
Do they get his well-tanned testicles on there or not?
Well,
I just knew testicles were going to come up. God damn it!
let me say this. I wonder how many of those right-wing tweets and Facebook posts are coming from troll farms, bot farms,
Well,
to create
again,
a greater sense of presence. I mean, this goes back to Joseph Goebbels, who used Germany's media to create the feeling that the Nazi mentality was in the majority, when in fact it was never more than 30%.
Never in the majority, right?
But
Well, one of the things, I mean, my
all you need is
specialty,
30% to control a country.
my specialty in the military, and I think a lot of people in the audience probably know this. My specialty was information warfare. I was an intelligence officer, but my had a very specific specialty. And in those days, if you were, I say in those days, God, I've become one of those people. But in those days, in warfare, and in that time, it was very difficult to, let's euphemistically say, manipulate how the enemy or the adversary thought, because it was very difficult to reach that person. Nowadays, with social media, foreign actors, and there are many because I see them online, can reach directly into the human mind, directly into the American consciousness at the individual level. This is the most incredibly powerful weapon ever made. And it's astounding to me that we are not teaching American citizens how to defend themselves against this form of manipulation. But, and there's a reason, and it's, when I say astounding, what I really mean is appalling. And what I really mean is that the reason that we're not doing it is the same reason that you currently see the kind of attack on education here in Florida that you see happening on the national level, because not doing it is profitable. It's when you have foreign intelligence services manipulating the American citizenry to hate and fear each other, those politicians in America who profit from that division profit even more. They become natural allies with the people that are currently trying to tear this country apart. And one of the things I said before was, how does this kind of, I mean, you look back at the collapse of nations in the past and societies and civilization, how do these things happen? How do people not see it coming? This is how. You're looking right at it.
Let me, we're at the end of our time. We're at the end of our time, but I can do a great rant about most of these corporations. It comes back to an asshole named Milton Friedman, who was an economist, who said the purpose of the corporation is to make money for the shareholders. And that is so wrong. The purpose of any company, corporation or little company, whatever, one person at a time, is to provide a service to the customers. And as long as you are providing that service, you are valuable to the community. If all you're doing is taking profit out for the shareholders, you are a parasite on the community. So, and I have said this, I was to groups of businessmen who have hired me to speak to them. I have said, your job is to provide a service. Identify that service, and you will build relationships with people who will come back to you again and again. I don't care if you're an airline or a loan company or a car company. Your job is to provide the service. Otherwise, you're going to get bad reviews on Yelp, bad reviews on the social media. But your job is to figure out what service you're providing and create that relationship. And what is wrong with our country, what is wrong with our economy, is people are no longer thinking in terms of the relationship of service that they have to have with the people who walk in the front door. And my dad used to say, somebody spends $1, you give them $2 worth of value, and that way they'll come back. And he had one of the most successful photography businesses in Los Angeles. He was so well loved that the short version, when a hotel, this was after he died, when a hotel tried to screw the SFWA, I was able to walk into another hotel, talk to the banquet manager, said, "Oh God, I miss your dad so much. How's your mom doing? And yeah, we can set you up with a banquet room only 2 weeks away." And so we were able to screw the Hotel Bonaventure and give a lot of good business to the Beverly Wilshire, simply because my dad had set up great relationships. I couldn't have done that without what my dad established in the first place. And this has been something I care about, is like, if you go into business with me, I'm going to give you $2 worth of value for every dollar you spend, because I want a relationship of friendship and partnership in whatever we're doing. This is alien to modern business.
It's very alien to modern business. Modern business, again, you're back to Milton, like you said, Milton Friedman. The purpose of business is to make a profit for the shareholder. And you see this when large companies nowadays, their CEOs, if you listen to a CEO talk nowadays, and I'm married to an MBA who will probably watch this podcast and then say things to me. But the thing about this is that modern business teaches that that's exactly what we're after. The bottom line is to make a profit. Everything else is irrelevant. Morality is the purview of government, morality and ethics. We adhere to ethics only so much as it makes a profit for our shareholders. And you see this because when you listen to a CEO of any modern American company talk, they don't talk about what they make or what service they provide. They talk about product. It doesn't matter whether they're making baby food or cars. These CEOs show up, they make a product, they make a profit for an extra month or two,
coming back to Disney,
they bail out.
Coming back to Disney, I got to say, Disney's customer service at the parks, at their website, the Disney Plus movie where you buy the movies, their customer service has been exquisite. Disney has what they call Disney College, where if you work for Disney, you go to Disney College to learn how to be a cast member. That's what they call it, because your job is to present Disney. Your job is to present Disney to the customers, and they are on that end. Now, whatever you want to say about Disney on the corporate end, okay, fine. But on that end, Disney understands their relationship, their public brand is their relationship with the customer is a service relationship. And I have never had a bad experience with Disney on that end, which is why, even though we can talk about the corporate over here, you have to admire that Disney understands that their public relations require that they be of service to everybody who walks through the door.
Right. Like I said, Disney's primary process is to turn little princess dreams into gold ingots, and the only way that works is if you keep getting little princess dreams in the front door. And for them, customer service. Now, again, I'm not even condemning them for that, because that's the process. As long as the customers are satisfied with the service that they're getting, well, again, we're a nation of capitalists, whether you like that idea or not. And please don't write me hate mail for saying that. But again, the bottom line here is that there has to be balance. You mentioned before government regulation. It's not business's job to be moral or ethical. And it'd be great if they were, and some are and some aren't. But it is government's job to look out for people. It's not business's job to look out for people. And this is where we make a mistake in this country. When I see people say, well, the free market will take care of that. Yeah, that's like saying evolution will take care of it. And evolution eventually will. But evolution is hard on the bystanders. And it's the same thing on the free market. The free market is a force. It's not a consciousness. And sure, if you make a terrible product that kills people, eventually you're going to go out of business. Maybe, but it's a little hard on the people who ate the poison baby food. And so, again, it's there has to be a balance between these things. And again, don't send me hate mail, but again, it's okay for business to make a profit, but it is also, there has to be a line, there has to be regulation, there has to be somebody that's looking out for people. And part of the problem with our government nowadays, and a large part, again, left, right, and primarily on the right, is that we seem to think that government's purpose is business. And we see this a lot with the last guy, elected businessman. And people who follow me have heard me say this many times. If you elect a businessman to run your government like a business, you're going to get the business, and you're going to get it good and hard. And that's exactly what happened. Government is not a business, not supposed to make a profit. Government is supposed to represent, to look out for people here in this country anyway.
Government is supposed to provide a service. We pay our taxes because we want a service. We want roads built, we want libraries, we want hospitals, we want fire department, police department, we want regulation for clean air, clean water. We want healthcare. We want the services that are difficult for us to produce for ourselves as individuals. So we form a government to provide services for all of us.
Right.
That attitude has been destroyed when Ronald Reagan said government is the problem. And at that
Right.
point, I knew he was our enemy.
Well, and that's
he
the
was
thing, so you're exactly 100% correct. And it's probably why you and I get along so well, is the fact that again, Ronald Reagan stood up there and said, government's not the solution, government's the problem. My question then is, why the hell do you want to be in charge of government, pal? Look, I think we can all agree that bad government, whatever form it takes, is a problem. But good government is the only way that 8 billion people can live together without slaughtering each other on this planet. And as much as the far right and the far left hate the idea of government, the fact of the matter is that government is the only way. Good government is the only way that all of us can live together and share in the benefits of civilization and society on an equitable basis. And so our problem nowadays, though, is we keep electing people to this country. It's become a thing where we elect people in this country to run our government who hate government. You're never going to get good government if you elect people who don't believe in government to run government. Then the last guy is a perfect example. That guy didn't get elected to office to run government. He got elected to office to run his goddamn business. And he gave the rest of us the business every damn day. And yet there are people in this country who think that government should be run like a business. You're nuts. Government should not. It's not business's job to watch out for the rights and the needs of individuals. It's business's job to be in business, to provide a service, to make money, ultimately to turn a profit of some kind or another. And business, at least in America, is an individual or independent operation. It's not the only, you don't have to, right now, I mean, a perfect example is Elon Musk trying to buy Twitter because he doesn't like how it works. Well, no matter how that works out, the people that are going to get screwed are the people who use Twitter, you and me. Because we don't have a goddamn say in this matter, all right? Whether it's the board of Twitter as it currently runs or Elon Musk, the multi-billionaire who's going to buy it, neither one of those assholes are going to listen to us in any way, shape, or form. That's government's job. At least I don't get to elect the board of directors or elect the king of Twitter. Government, you're supposed to be able to elect, at least in the United States, elect the people who will. You can't make everybody happy, but at least do the best job for the majority of people in the best manner possible. And we've forgotten that about America, that we keep electing people who hate the damn country and who hate us and who hate government to run the goddamn government. And then everybody's shocked at how terrible everything is. No kidding, man.
Well, Jim?
Yeah,
David?
I knew it was coming.
Come on. You got to love it all. You guys do. Hey, do you have a screenshot set to go up, David?
Yeah, hang on. Let me find it. Where was it? There it is.
Because
there it is.
Just the other day. Go ahead and pop it up, David.
Let's see if that works. I've never done this before, so let's see.
There
it is.
5 years.
Screen 2. Share screen 2. Did that work?
Click on it. I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay, wait a minute. Screen 1, entire screen, window, that one, share.
Did you get it? This has got disaster written all over it, man.
Yeah, all right. It shows up somewhere.
Click on the actual one after you've told it to share it. Try clicking on it.
All right. Window. Try clicking on it and share.
Somewhere right now, nuclear missiles are launching.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going with this.
Hang on. Let me do it a different way.
I'm going to do it a different way, but I'm going to give you a little backstory. There's this writer I know. His name's David Gerald. And he wrote a book, and he made a movie about it, about a gay man adopting a young child.
I don't think
Okay.
that's how the movie worked out, but yeah.
Yeah. He's written books where he had gay characters in it. And these books are in our libraries. Now,
Well, maybe not Florida libraries.
Okay, here, just a second. I'm going to have to do something very quickly for you, Jim or David.
Hurry up.
And that is going to,
Oh, God.
on the video, I'm going to have to mirror the camera. Now try that again.
What have you got? Oh, have you got that?
Yeah. Now you
Yeah.
see the thing is,
I could see it.
all of these books are the kind of books that if I was in Florida, oops, it's just not letting me.
Holy crap! I went full screen here. Man, that's way too much of my face to know. I was trying to see your books, and then it looks like my bookshelf. It looks like the David Gerald section of my bookshelf.
Yeah. Well, everybody should have a David Gerald section of their bookshelf. I know I got some that are still wrapped up in little pieces of plastic because I like them so well. But the concept is, David, are you worried about young minds in rural schools having those kind of books on their shelves in their libraries?
No.
Oh, then okay.
Look, let me tell you this. Let me hold this one up. Where is it? Here, it's at the bottom. Yeah, here. Okay, I wrote this.
You're
I
right.
wrote this. The Man Who Folded Himself is probably reversed. It's reversed on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah,
what it
it's
is
reversed. Yeah.
All
It's
right.
reversed
Anyway,
here,
I
too.
wrote The Man Who Folded Himself in 1973. Right.
Right.
And the character is unashamedly gay. He ignores all the cultural defaults about apologizing for being gay.
Right.
And over the years, I have gotten at least 3 letters from people telling me they did not commit suicide because they realized they weren't alone in the world for how they felt because they had read The Man Who Folded Himself. So there's at least 3 people alive today who wouldn't have been if they hadn't read that book. So I got my job done in that I said, look, being gay is a normal, natural expression of for people who have that, human beings are not binary. We exist in a whole chaotic spectrum, 12-dimensional spectrum of possible behaviors.
Right.
And there are a lot of different ways we can bond with each other and fall in love with each other and support each other. And Man Who Folded Himself was about taking responsibility for your life. And it was a very transformative book for me to write. I think it's a very transformative book for people to read. And I have no problem with young people reading it because it's going to stretch their imagination to all time, all space, and all possibilities. It's going to encourage them to imagine, what would I do if I had a time machine? So I'm not worried at all about anybody reading any of my books, although I will admit 13, 14, 15 o'clock should not be read by anybody under the age of 40. It is brutal.
I would say that as long as we're talking here, I'll say that, David, I read that book in I think probably 74, 75, somewhere in there as a teenager, and I never thought about it. I mean, I'm a straight white guy from the Midwest. I didn't even know any gay people. Now I probably did, but back then in the 70s, at least where I lived in corn country, nobody was openly gay. Nobody was, it wasn't something, there wasn't, sure as hell wasn't any characters on TV. I mean, it was just never anything that I thought about. And I read that book in the 70s, and it changed the way that I thought, in as much as that if I'd ever given any thought about it, it was playground taunts, the words that children throw at each other. And it changed the way that I looked at the world, the way that I looked at people, the way I thought about it. An example, I'll give you another example, one that I think is probably relevant here. And I realize we're over time, but watch Game of Thrones. Everybody knows the actor Peter Dinklage. He's a dwarf. I saw him in a show, and I can't remember the name of it, Emergence, Transcendence, something. He was in a short-lived single series, and when I saw him as an actor, he didn't play a little person on the show. He played a regular dude. He just happened to be short. And it changed the way that I looked at people. Because before that, every small person I ever thought of was like in a circus or some damn stupid ass.
Yeah, Peter
Right.
Dinklage would never play an elf or a leprechaun.
Right, and it
And
literally
the only time he ever
changed.
came close was a scene where he played a little person getting mad at having to play an elf or a leprechaun.
Right.
But I saw him in his first big picture, a thing called The Station Agent, years and years and years.
Right.
It was his when it first came out,
Right.
and I thought he had such presence that he didn't have a lot of dialogue, but he stole the whole picture from everybody else in it. And I thought, I don't know who this person is, but I will see whatever else he does.
Right.
And okay, he's a dwarf. I don't care that he's a dwarf. I care that he's a damn good actor, and I'm
Right.
really
Well, as
looking
I
forward
said, it literally transformed how I saw people. And your book did the same exact thing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
So as far as to go back to the original question, which is how do you feel about these books being in libraries? Well, God damn it, they should be in libraries. They should be in every library. They should be in every school library. They should be everywhere, because these shape, especially for young people, because we're developing at that age, we're developing how we will see the world for the rest of our lives. And those works at that crucial moment change how we see human beings, which is exactly why people like Ron DeSantis and the Republicans here in the state of Florida don't want you to read them.
Well, I'll tell you this. If the Republicans ever decide that my books are dangerous and they want to ban my books, I'll say thank you, because I can use the extra sales. Because the minute you give me that kind of publicity, thousands and tens of thousands of people say, oh, if this is something I'm not allowed to read, I got to go find that. And this is human nature. The minute you say, don't touch that, people, it's like, I learned this with Sean. I said, don't touch that. It's very breakable and very expensive. Guess what got broken first? It's like, so I learned, it's like,
Right.
and there was some valuable stuff that got broken. It's
Right.
like
Not
the
just
minute you
people,
say,
but
don't touch that.
Teenagers in particular are the ones that will defy authority. And that's
I
why I
keep
love
trying to-
seeing these banned book list clubs emerging in schools around the country right now.
Yes, please ban my book. Tell everybody this book is about a gay Vietnam vet searching for his soul. Okay, please ban my book. Oh,
Right,
and I know, and I'll tell you something. I didn't know how well this book worked until a Vietnam vet told me I couldn't finish it. It was reactivating too much stuff. It was that realistic. I said, okay, I got my job done. I did my research. I got the emotional context of it right. The details may have been all over, but everybody who went to Vietnam came back with a different story. So anyway.
Well,
Anyway,
guys. Hey.
I guess we're there.
Well, no, I just want to say thank you for giving us an opportunity, Dave, to see your books, because I don't want to see them ever get banned. I want to see it where they're held up as books that young people should read to discover, to understand. That's the whole point of it. And Jim, as we was telling you beforehand, you're going to be at ShyCon, right?
I will be there unless something horrible happens again, and I can't discount that. But my plan is to be there for the whole thing, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'll bring plenty of your books, and the other piece of it is we just last week we had the chair of ShyCon on
Right.
for a full hour, and we discussed you a little bit, and she is calling the appropriate security to have him standing by.
yeah. All right, now we're in the right spot. Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be great.
I tell you, I've had just a little bit of interaction with the ChiCon people, and they've been great. And I'm really looking forward to the convention. It looks like a blast. And it's been quite a while since I've been downtown Chicago.
If I can get a dealer's table, I'll be there.
Yeah.
If I can get a dealer's table, I'll be there. We haven't had any response yet when there's going to start selling dealer's tables. So
yes, they have. They just.
All right.
They didn't put it out very well, but the application, and I have an application in, and I won't say that had anything to do with me having the chair of ShyCon on.
Will you send me a link? Will you, Bob, send me a link so I can get an application in?
I will. And David, if you would like, so you're going to be there? I didn't.
If I can get a dealer's table, I'll be there.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe we should have Shicon on again next week, and I'll give you a call. And but
Okay,
I will
do it.
send you a link.
Make a miracle for me, because this week I have got to clean out 2 rooms for the remodel because we're putting down new floors, and that is the only thing I'm going to be doing. Even though I had 3 story ideas I want to write.
Okay, you do that, and I can. I'll tell you this: you just you are one of the great people. I've watched Jim at convention. I mean, David at conventions. Haven't seen Jim at conventions, but David at a convention, you are about the best guest a person can have. When people walk up to your table, you talk to them.
Man, he's buttered you up, David. He wants something, man. Be careful.
No,
Come on. I've been on the other side of the table, and you want to walk up to, like, I met Shirley MacLaine once, and she looked at me like, "Why are you in my space? Why are you talking to me?" It's like, no, come on. I wanted to tell you how much I loved you in 2 Mules for Sister Sarah, and I've been a fan since I saw you do the Carmen Boogie on whatever show it was. And, and why not just say thank you for remembering? And people come up and they say, God, I really love Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And I say, oh, really? Okay, well, thank you. I had fun doing that book. And then I'll tell them a little story about it. It comes back to, they really want to have a moment of relationship so they can say, guess who I met? I don't know that I'm that important, but if they think I'm important, I'm certainly not going to let them down. It's like, it is that whole thing about human connection. And you know what? I've ended up making some terrific friends that way. People who say, hey, there's this going on. Oh, please tell me more about it. Here's my email. Send me more, Thank you, Mark Rose.
That's right.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know who it was that pushed that launch button, David. I just merely made sure the missile was wired. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. And David, I will go do what I can do, and because I couldn't think of a better thing to having Jim and David both at Worldcon, both hanging around the dealer's room, because I wasn't blowing smoke. I've watched the man in the dealer's room. It's awesome. So, somebody says David is important.
It's the internet. It's the internet, man. Don't listen to them.
Well,
if I believed my own publicity, I would be either very overinflated or very depressed. So I try not to, it's like, what's the next story I have to write? I try to keep my energy on that, and my energy on, what videos should I sit and watch with Aiden? Those are my 2 big challenges, because if I start worrying about public relations or whatever, then I'm putting my energy way in the wrong place and putting myself at the effect of other people's opinions. And I learned a long time ago, I can't risk that. It's like, it's weird. I mean, other people were telling me you can't be gay, you can't adopt a kid, you can't do this, don't wear that. I even had gay people telling me I was the wrong kind of gay. I said, fuck you, come on. It's like, if I wasn't going to let straight people tell me how to behave, I sure as hell am not going to let a bunch of queers tell me how to behave. They did not like hearing that. No.
You should have started out with this, man. It would have been a funner hour.
You guys are just too awesome for words. So wave goodbye to your fans who are still after it. And thank you so much.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see you later. All right.